For 48 hours, a killer sent text messages from his victim's phone, perfectly mimicking her voice, deceiving her own mother into believing she was still alive. When police finally entered the flat in East Kilbride, Scotland, what they discovered would haunt even the most experienced investigators. This is the story of Phoenix Spencer Horn. Welcome to the evidence room. Phoenix was 21 years old when she died. Her friends called her Fee. The name fit perfectly. Like the mythical phoenix that rises from flames, she had this remarkable gift for lifting people through their darkest moments. Grace McCabe, who went on to become a Miss Scotland 2024 finalist, said Phoenix supported her through the hardest time of her life. She wished Phoenix had gotten all the happiness and success she knew was waiting for her. These weren't empty words spoken after tragedy. They were genuine reflections of who Phoenix was, the kind of friend everyone hopes to have. Phoenix was incredibly hardworking. She juggled multiple jobs, waitressing at the Strathaven Hotel, working at coffee shops around East Kilbride. Her colleagues consistently described someone who brought positive energy to every shift, who made difficult customers feel welcome, the kind of employee every manager hopes to find. At 21, Phoenix stood at the threshold of what should have been a long, fulfilling life. She had dreams, ambitions, people who believed in her. She shared a flat on Glen Lee in East Kilbride with her boyfriend of 2 years, 27-year-old Euan Methan. Euan worked as a postman for Royal Mail. They'd met at a family party. Their relationship seemed, from the outside, to have developed naturally. To Phoenix's family, Euan appeared to be everything they could want for their daughter: polite, respectful, genuinely affectionate. Over those 2 years, they'd welcomed him into the Spencer family with open arms. He became like an adopted son. They trusted him completely. Phoenix's mother, Alison Spencer, had grown particularly close to Euan. They exchanged regular text messages, had their own relationship. When Phoenix talked about Euan, she seemed secure in their relationship, proud of the life they were building together in their flat. But beneath that surface, something was fracturing. As 2024 progressed, subtle changes began emerging in Euan's behavior. Changes Phoenix might have initially dismissed as normal relationship adjustments. He started expressing frustration about her work schedule, particularly her waitressing shifts at the Strathaven Hotel. The complaints started small. Euan would mention feeling lonely when Phoenix worked evenings or weekends. At first, this might have seemed endearing. A boyfriend who missed his girlfriend when she was away. But the frequency and intensity gradually increased. Phoenix, with her naturally caring disposition, would apologize when Euan expressed these feelings. She understood that relationships required compromise. She loved Euan enough to want to address his concerns. But what she didn't recognize was a pattern. She was being slowly conditioned to feel guilty for her independence, for her ambition. The cycle became insidious. Euan would complain. Phoenix would apologize. Then she'd try to adjust her behavior to make him feel better. It's a pattern many people in controlling relationships recognize too late: the gradual erosion of personal autonomy, disguised as love and concern. Phoenix's family had no idea what was happening behind closed doors. When they saw the couple together, Euan continued to present that same polite, considerate facade. The irony is devastating. Phoenix, who had built a reputation for lifting others up, was now trapped in a relationship where her own well-being was being systematically undermined. The woman who had helped Grace McCabe through her hardest time was navigating her own nightmare. But she couldn't see it clearly yet. Euan's complaints weren't presented as demands. They were framed as vulnerabilities, as his need for her presence and attention. For someone as empathetic as Phoenix, this manipulation was particularly effective. Saturday, November 16th, 2024 began like countless Saturdays before it. Both Phoenix and Euan went to work that morning, following routines that had become second nature. Phoenix arrived at the Strathaven Hotel in good spirits. According to her colleagues, she was exactly as she always was: warm, positive, professional. Euan completed his postal route for Royal Mail. To his coworkers, he appeared completely normal. When his shift ended, he told a colleague he was heading home to relax. a perfectly ordinary comment that would later take on chilling significance. While Phoenix was working her shift, she received a text message from Euan. He complained that her waitressing shifts made him feel lonely. It wasn't the first time he'd expressed this sentiment, but there was something different about this particular message, an edge that Phoenix might have sensed but didn't fully understand. Phoenix responded with an apology, expressing regret that her work schedule was affecting him. It was exactly the kind of response that had become typical. Phoenix taking responsibility for Euan's emotional state. What Phoenix couldn't know was that this exchange was the final trigger. When Phoenix finished her shift and headed home to their flat on Glen Lee, she had no idea she was walking toward her death. The last text message she would ever send came at 9:37 that evening. She told her mother that she and Euan were at home eating dinner together. Around 8 p.m., Euan had ordered takeaway food for them. When the delivery driver arrived at their flat, he would later tell police something crucial. Euan appeared completely normal, not intoxicated, not agitated, not under the influence of any substances. This detail would prove crucial when Euan later claimed substances had caused him to black out. Around midnight, neighbors in the flat below heard something that would haunt them forever. These neighbors had grown accustomed to the normal sounds of life from above: footsteps, conversation, the ordinary rhythms of a young couple living their lives. But what they heard around midnight was different: a loud noise, hurried footsteps, increased activity. They were hearing Phoenix fight for her life. Euan attacked Phoenix with 3 different knives. Let that sink in. 3 different knives. This wasn't a single moment of lost control. He stabbed her 20 times. 10 of those wounds were concentrated on her face. The fatal wound pierced her chest, damaging vital organs. But the stabbing wasn't the only violence Phoenix endured. Euan also strangled her, using his hands to compress her neck while she struggled. The combination of strangulation and multiple stab wounds painted a picture of violence that was both frenzied and methodical. Pathologists determined that Phoenix may have initially been attacked in the bathroom before being moved into the hallway. A bloodied knife was also found in the bedroom. The violence had moved through multiple rooms of their home. Phoenix had tried to escape, but Euan followed. The fitness tracking app on Euan's phone recorded a significant spike in physical activity during this time period, digital evidence corroborating exactly what the neighbors reported. For Phoenix, who had spent 21 years spreading kindness, the final moments were filled with unimaginable terror. What Euan did in the hours immediately following Phoenix's death revealed depths of depravity that investigators struggled to comprehend. Using the same knives, he decapitated Phoenix. Prosecutors would later describe this as an attempt to defeat the ends of justice. But the mutilation didn't stop there. Euan attempted to dismember Phoenix's body further. He tried to remove her limbs, to separate her torso. The prosecution later described how he attempted to sever her torso, her right wrist, and her ankle. When police eventually entered the flat, they found Phoenix's mutilated and decapitated body hidden under a towel in the hallway. 2 blood-stained knives lay beside her body. A third was discarded in the bedroom. Evidence of violence throughout multiple rooms. Perhaps the most chilling aspect was what Euan did while Phoenix's remains lay in their home. At 2:40 a.m., just hours after the attack, Euan was messaging dealers attempting to buy cocaine. He would continue these attempts throughout the weekend. Forensic analysis revealed that on Sunday, November 17th, from approximately 8 a.m. until 6:30 p.m., Euan accessed adult websites 170 times, while Phoenix's body lay hidden just meters away. But the cruelest part of Euan's plan involved Phoenix's mother. Allison Spencer had always maintained close contact with her daughter. Their regular text messages were a source of comfort for both women. When Allison tried to reach Phoenix on Sunday morning and didn't receive an immediate response, she wasn't immediately concerned. Young people sleep in on Sundays. But what Allison didn't know was that the responses she began receiving weren't from Phoenix at all. They were from her killer. Using Phoenix's phone, Euan began an elaborate and heartless deception. When Allison texted to check on her daughter, Euan responded. The message read, "Hey, Fee isn't up yet. I'll get her to text you when she is." X. The casual tone. The familiar nickname, Fee. The single X at the end showing affection. It perfectly mimicked Phoenix's texting style. Later, still using Phoenix's phone, Euan sent another message. Hey, sorry, I've just woken up. XXX. The message was designed to sound exactly like something Phoenix would send. The casual apology. The language. The multiple X's indicating affection. Allison had no reason to doubt these messages were coming from her daughter. She was being manipulated by a man she'd welcomed as family. Throughout the weekend, Euan drove around East Kilbride in Phoenix's red Vauxhall Corsa, scrolling through her phone, continuing his attempts to buy cocaine. The weekend stretched on with Allison believing her daughter was alive and well. Euan continued sending reassuring messages, maintaining the fiction that everything was normal. But Monday morning brought a reality Euan couldn't manage through text messages. Phoenix was scheduled to work. Her employers expected her. Her colleagues anticipated her arrival. Phoenix was known for her reliability. When she failed to appear for work and couldn't be contacted, colleagues immediately knew something was wrong. At midday on Monday, November 18th, Euan made the phone call that would end his charade. He dialed 999 and told the emergency operator, I had a psychotic break and killed my wife. But even in this moment of confession, Euan was still constructing a narrative. He told the operator he and Phoenix had been messing about when the violence occurred. He claimed he'd been taking steroids and cocaine that might have been spiked. He described what happened as horrible, framing himself as much a victim of circumstances. When transferred to a senior police officer, Euan said, I just want to go to jail. I'm not violent. I have been out my face. I can't remember what happened. I have been driving about all weekend. Every word carefully chosen to minimize his responsibility, to create a narrative that might generate sympathy. When officers placed Euan under arrest, his demeanor was eerily calm. This wasn't someone experiencing remorse or horror. This was someone who'd been living with his actions for 2 days. Euan's words to the arresting officers revealed the calculated nature of his actions. I could not stay here with her like that. I tried to dismember her. I moved her from the bath and put her there. Clear, specific statements about deliberate actions, not the words of someone who couldn't remember. As investigators examined the evidence, every single claim Euan made began to fall apart. Forensic analysis revealed his online activity throughout the weekend, accessing websites, messaging dealers, crafting careful texts to Allison Spencer. All of this demonstrated someone who was lucid, making decisions in full control of his faculties. The delivery driver's testimony was crucial. He testified that Euan seemed completely normal at 8 p.m. on Saturday, not impaired. This directly contradicted Euan's claims of being so intoxicated he couldn't remember what happened. His phone's activity tracker confirmed significant movement around midnight, matching the neighbor's reports exactly. Objective data that couldn't be explained away. But perhaps the most damning evidence was the fake messages sent to Allison, the careful mimicry of Phoenix's voice, the strategic use of details like the X's showing affection. Someone experiencing a genuine psychotic break doesn't have capacity for this level of calculated manipulation. What made this case particularly unsettling was Euan's complete lack of any criminal record. No history of violence. No prior arrests. From all external appearances, he'd lived an ordinary, law-abiding life. He had a steady job, a relationship. He'd been welcomed into a family who saw nothing concerning. This is one of the most unsettling aspects of domestic violence. It often happens behind closed doors, perpetrated by people who seem completely normal to the outside world. The answer lay in the gradual erosion of respect and escalation of control that had been building in their relationship. The complaints about Phoenix's work, the guilt-tripping, the conditioning, all part of a pattern that had been intensifying for months. That night in November, something finally triggered an explosion of rage and resentment that had been building beneath Euan's carefully maintained facade. Detective Chief Inspector Susie Can had the devastating task of delivering the news to Phoenix's family. Their beloved daughter had been gone since Saturday night. Those messages they thought were from Phoenix had been sent by her killer. For Allison Spencer, the revelation was particularly devastating. Those weekend text messages she'd treasured had been lies. The intimacy of the deception, the way Euan used his knowledge of their relationship to manipulate her, added another layer of violation. Euan eventually wrote a letter claiming remorse. "I know how loved Phoenix was and how she made her family complete. I can't believe I've taken her from them." Judge Lord Matthews saw through it. The letter answered none of the questions plaguing the family. On July 14, 2025, Judge Lord Matthews sentenced Euan Methan to life imprisonment with a minimum of 23 years before eligibility for parole. Euan is 27 years old. In 23 years, he'll be 50. He could potentially spend the second half of his life as a free man. Phoenix will forever be 21. For Phoenix's family, the sentence isn't 23 years. It's a lifetime. Every birthday, every Christmas, every family gathering marked by Phoenix's absence. But Phoenix's story doesn't end with her killer's conviction. In the aftermath of this tragedy, Phoenix's family made a decision that speaks to the values Phoenix herself embodied. They took thousands of pounds raised through a fundraiser in Phoenix's memory and donated it to women's aid services across Scotland. They transformed their grief into action, their pain into purpose. Women's Aid Glasgow responded with words that perfectly capture Phoenix's legacy. Her name, Phoenix, now stands for more than loss. It stands for action, for change, for refusing to let her story end in silence. This is what it means to rise from the ashes. The money donated in Phoenix's name funds services that help women escape abusive relationships, counselors who help people recognize warning signs, safe houses where women can go when they need to leave. Women Phoenix will never meet are safer because of the funds raised in her memory. This case serves as a stark reminder of several crucial truths about domestic violence. Controlling behavior often starts small. Complaints that seem reasonable. Concerns that appear to come from love. When expressions of need become tools to make you feel guilty for independence, when they escalate into demands that restrict your autonomy, love has crossed into control. The warning signs aren't always obvious. Abusers often maintain different personas in public. By conventional measures, Euan seemed like a good partner. If you or someone you know is experiencing these patterns, please reach out to local support services. In the United Kingdom, the National Domestic Abuse Helpline 0800-200-0247. In the United States, 1-800-7997-233. In Australia, 1-800-737-732. These services are confidential, staffed by trained professionals who understand the complexities of abusive relationships. Phoenix Spencer Horn was 21 years old when her life was stolen by someone she trusted, someone she loved, someone her family had welcomed with open arms. But through her family's courage and generosity, through their decision to transform grief into action, Phoenix's light continues to shine. Her name is remembered not just as a victim, but as a catalyst for change. Other women are protected because Phoenix's family refused to let her story end in silence. That is how her name lives on, how she continues to rise from the ashes, how her spirit endures beyond tragedy. If this story has affected you, if it has made you think about relationships in your own life, please share it. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is ensure these stories are heard. Thank you for watching The Evidence Room. If you found this investigation valuable, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support allows us to continue telling these important stories with the dignity and respect they deserve. Rest in peace, Phoenix Spencer Horn. Your legacy continues. Your story will not be forgotten. This has been The Evidence Room.